Simi Valley, California.
It was good timing. Well, we're gonna do a little creativity with our agendas tonight. We're gonna start off with our city council meeting. We're gonna jump into SUA real quick and take care of a couple of issues we have there, and then we'll come back to city council. So at this time, I will call the city council meeting to order, and I'll ask that you all stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have a proclamation this week in recognition of Constitution Week, brought to us by the Daughters of the American Revolution. I think we have a couple of representatives here. I will go ahead and read the proclamation, and then I'll present it. I don't know if you have words to say or not, but if you do, you're going to be welcome to come up. Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America, the guardian of our liberties, embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to the rule by law. And whereas September 17th, 2022 marks the 235th anniversary of the framing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. Whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. Whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, William Joyce, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Stillwater, Oklahoma, do hereby proclaim the period of September 17th through September 23rd as Constitution Week 2022, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. Good evening. Thanks for being here.
Mayor Joyce, council members, thank you very much for your support of Daughters of the American Revolution and also of our Constitution, which is so vitally important to all of us. So thank you very much for the proclamation. We appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. Take this down to you. Okay, at this time, I will move that we recess the city council meeting. Second. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the Stillwater City Council will now be in recess. And at this time, I will call to order the September 19th, 2022 meeting of the Stillwater Utilities Authority. On this agenda, first up, we have a consent docket with regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the consent docket.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the consent docket is approved. First up, under general orders, we have consider approval of an increase in the fiscal year 23 expenditure limit to enable for natural gas transport. Mr. Lauren Smith.
Good evening, trustees. Lauren Smith, Electric Utility Director. Thank you so much for getting to me first. Just to recap, the Stillwater Energy Center has been dispatched to operate significantly more than projected in FY23, and natural gas prices remain high. The SUA purchases natural gas and transportation from Enable. Trustees authorized expenditures to Enable not to exceed $2.3 million in FY23. Staff has prepared budget amendments to increase the natural gas expenditure account with an offsetting revenue increase from GRDA for energy production and SUA PCA sales. Both expenditures and revenues are proposed to be increased by an additional $5 million. Staff will monitor and anticipates additional expenditure limits approvals later this fiscal year, primarily due to gas futures remaining high well into February and March. One important note, and this is what twisted us up a little bit last week, is that the budget amendment for the expenditure count says $7.5 million. It's important to note that that entails two pieces, the Enable piece and the ONG piece of about $200,000. So Enable is proposed to $7.3 million, and Oklahoma Natural Gas remains $200,000. So this report only seeks an expenditure increase for Enable for $7.3 million. I have a motion here, but I will pause to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Lauren. Trustees, any questions? Appreciate you guys getting all the numbers straightened out.
Thank you.
What is your recommendation for us?
Motion to approve increasing the FY23 expenditure limit to Enable for natural gas transport and supply to a not-to-exceed amount of $7.3 million and approve associated budget amendments.
Trustees,
I move to approve staff recommendation.
Second?
we have a motion and a second. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Next up, 5B is consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a lease purchase agreement for Skyline East Section 2 offsite sewer line by and between the City of Stillwater, the Utilities Authority, and Eastside 3 LLC. Mr. Dorflinger.
Good evening, trustees. My name is Andy Dorflinger. I'm the Deputy Director of Projects and Construction with the Engineering Department. And tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about the Skyline East lease purchase agreement. The City Engineering Inspection Team has determined that the construction is complete, the 2,245-foot sewer line, and it's acceptable. The sewer line has capacity to serve not only the Skyline East development, but also has the ability to serve other development tracts. Let's see. The Code of Ordinances allows a developer or owner of the development to enter into a lease purchase agreement in situations like this. Eastside LLC desires to enter into a lease purchase agreement with the city to recover costs associated with constructing the sewer line. And that's done on a pro rata basis. So this pipe will actually serve 96 acres, and 12 of those acres are the East Skyline East project. The remainder is land to be developed. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Trustees, questions?
So as I understand this, only development in these parcels that are identified 1 through 7 on this graphic that was really hard to see up on that screen
Sorry about that.
are
Yeah,
subject to this agreement.
that's correct.
And this doesn't cost the City of Stillwater anything, but those individuals or those developers that connect onto this line within 10 years will pay something to the SUA, which will then send it to the developer of the original pipeline.
That's correct.
Perfect.
So, and this shows the yellow area is the area in Skyline that's being served by this right now. And then, like you said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are future developments that could happen that could connect to this line. And if they do, they'll have to pay the connection fee. It goes to SUA, and then it gets reimbursed to the developer for their costs.
Up to their investment plus some level of interest.
That's correct.
Yes.
I mean, this generally, from a policy perspective, that we allow for a lease purchase agreement like this to pay for, to incentivize the developer to build this
Exactly.
and allow future capacity to be added on to this sewer line in the first
Yeah,
place. Right?
so
This is
so
what
they
we're trying to
don't.
do.
Yeah, so you don't go in and restrict the capacity on this line when it could serve all these other areas.
And those later developments don't get sort of the windfall of the first developer having to pay to put all this infrastructure in.
Exactly.
And now they can develop without having to deal with it.
Yeah, I've run into this in previous life when I did some development work. You'd find a sewer line that had been extended. You go to tie onto it, and there would be an extra cost because another entity had paid for that. So it's a fair.
What is the staff's recommendation?
We would recommend, let me read it real quick. Staff recommends that the city council the trustees enter into a lease purchase agreement with Eastside LLC to authorize the mayor to execute the lease documents.
Trustees?
Motion to accept staff recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the staff's proposed action here. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that's approved. That takes us, if there are no reports from the officers of the board, to the end of the SUA agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn SUA. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, Stillwater Utilities Authority is now adjourned. At this time, I will reconvene the Stillwater City Council meeting, and we will jump in at item 4 on the consent docket. Item 4, which is the consent docket. Councilors, any questions, comments, or recommended action on the consent docket?
Motion to approve the consent docket.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the consent docket is approved. Item 7A, public hearings. Receive public comment regarding a request to approve the map amendment rezoning properties located at 1407 and 1809 East Burris Road and 5920 North Jardeau Road from A, agriculture to RSL residential large lot. Ms. Carnley, do we have good notice on this item?
Yes, we do.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Jacqueline Porter, presenting on this item on behalf of the Planning Department. Tonight is a map amendment located at 1407 and 1809 East Burris and 5920 North Jardeau from agriculture to large lot single family, which is RSL. Here is an area map of the subject property. These properties are located on the northeast side of town at the intersection of Jardeau and Burris. Here's an aerial view of the properties. The city limits boundaries are adjacent to the north and the east of the properties. And the west at the next section line is the Canyon subdivision over here. Here's a street view looking west from North Jardeau. The properties are undeveloped land at this time. The subject properties are currently zoned agriculture, with agriculture located to the west, and the surrounding uses outside are also agriculture. This slide contains images of the future land use map of the 2030 Comprehensive Plan. Future land use maps are used to forecast desired uses in the community at the time of the adoption of the Comprehensive Plan. The subject properties are proposed to be industrial use, with similar uses located around the property except to the west as high-density residential. This property is currently no city infrastructure available. CRC is the electric provider at this location. Stephen Ghost with Ghost & Associates is present on behalf of the applicant. Are there any questions for staff at this time?
Councilors? Hearing no questions, I will open the public hearing. I'll ask Mr. Ghost to come forward.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. Stephen Ghost with Ghost & Associates, 113 East 8th Avenue. Jacqueline covered pretty much all of it, 74 acres. Currently undeveloped. There's no water sewer out there. There's gravel roads. The comp plan had it, as she mentioned, industrial. The first item on the second reads tonight is an ordinance rezoning the property to the west of it to residential for a development that's going on there. So, yeah, if there's any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Any questions? Do we have the addresses right?
As far as I know.
All right. Thanks,
All right,
Stephen.
thank you.
I don't have anyone else signed up for public hearing tonight, so I will close this public hearing. Jacqueline, could you let us know if the Planning Commission had a recommendation?
All right. Planning Commission recommended approval, a vote of 3-0.
Thank you so much. Councilors?
I move to affirm the Planning Commission recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Planning Commission recommendation. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to general orders. Agenda item 8. 8A is consider approval of budget amendments appropriating $400,000 to construct equipment storage building, $50,000 to complete a strategic business plan, and $165,000 for personnel expenditures. at the Stillwater Regional Airport. Mr. Priegel.
Good evening. Paul Priegel, Airport Director. As you all are aware, our airport has continued to grow and transform, and so tonight I bring before you a budget amendment to help us address a couple of issues that we're facing. One of our more pressing issues, if you drive out by the airport, you'll see a lot of nice equipment, new equipment we've been able to invest in the last couple of years, but it's all sitting out in the weather on places of concrete and asphalt that are really intended for aircraft storage and parking. We know we need to get that stored inside to prolong its life and to also provide us better, smoother operations in the wintertime when we're trying to get winter weather cleared off the airfield. So we have worked to identify 2 areas where we can expand our storage. We are completely out of indoor storage in our current facilities. One is up by the fuel farm. We have a site where we can build a standalone storage building. Right now we're estimating about an 80 by 80, which should hold a lot of, if not all of our equipment. And then also on the north side of our current operations center, which is where all of our operations employees base out of and most of our equipment is stored now, we have identified an area that we can build a lean-to structure that would give us some more cover for some other equipment and vehicles. We've also had to reorganize and increase our staffing due to some of the new security requirements coming our way. We're in the process of transitioning to larger aircraft, which is really exciting for our market, but it also takes staffing changes. These changes came about after the FY23 personnel budget was prepared, and so there's a line item in here for several personnel account budget adjustments just to make room for those new positions and the reorganization that we did there. And then finally, we are at a really unprecedented time with our airport. We're, of course, in the middle of a master plan update, but we're about to start a new terminal design for a new commercial terminal. And it's not only going to be for a building, but an entire area, a new roadway coming through, new development areas. And so I feel like it's prudent that we look at what potentials we have out there and go about it in the most prudent and smart way possible. And so I've talked to a lot of my other colleagues, and one of the things that we've never done at the airport that I feel like would be very beneficial would be a strategic business plan. And that would allow us to really look at the options, the potentials we have. Although we do have a lot of cool transformational development area out there, we really have limited space. So make sure we make the best use of that space, seize any opportunities we have for revenue production and things of that nature that will help us in our operations. So with all that, we've prepared a budget amendment. And there is, as stated earlier, is $400,000 allocated to the storage building and lean-to, $50,000 allocated to the strategic plan, and $165,000 to the various personnel line items to adjust those. And so I'm happy to answer any questions before I provide an official motion.
Thank you, Paul. Councilors, any questions?
Just one question. You within the item, it says that the airport has received in excess of $1 million.
Yes, thank you so much. That's actually a very critical part I left off. So with all this growth, we have also been very fortunate to receive multiple tranches of COVID relief funds. And those COVID relief funds are pretty specific and that we can apply them to operational costs such as personnel expenses. And because we have those available, this in particular, we have in excess of $1 million that we can apply back to our personnel expenses. Since we already that money has already been budgeted for personnel, this actually provides us with a available fund balance that we can take to pay for these projects. And then on the backside, we can use the COVID relief funds to actually pay for our personnel expenses. So this budget revision reallocates that personnel budget to these expenses.
Is there any concern, since personnel expenses are an annualized expense, that we have the money and it's sustainable going forward after the $1 million? I mean, if it's $165,000, that would blow through in 5 or 6 years from $1 million.
So this has been a pretty steady growth that we've had to endure, and so before we make these decisions, we of course consider not only the current fiscal year, but what it's going to look like in the future to make sure that we are able to sustain that. Because obviously, once you start these down this road, unfortunately, we didn't have a whole lot of choice in the matter. It was just kind of one of those, well, we got to figure out how to do it. And so, working with our finance and city management, we feel like we've identified security in that area.
Okay. Perfect, thank you.
Further questions?
I just think it's really exciting, and thank you for your leadership and all that you're doing here. I think a strategic business plan in addition to the master planning that's happening at the airport seems like a really just smart idea and concept. The airports, local airports like this are traditionally strong economic development drivers, and so having a consideration of that I think is really smart, and I appreciate everyone's forethought and kind of thinking to do that.
Thank you.
What is your recommendation for us, Paul?
It would be a motion to approve the budget amendment appropriating $400,000 to construct an equipment storage building and lean-to, $50,000 to complete a strategic plan, and $165,000 for personnel expenditures for Stillwater Regional Airport.
Counselors?
Motion to accept staff's recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, those budget amendments are approved. That takes us to item 8B, consideration, discussion, possible approval of a lease purchase agreement for the Skyline East Section 2 offsite sewer line by and between the City of Stillwater, Stillwater Utilities Authority, and Eastside 3 LLC. This item we discussed at SUA.
That's correct. So just to reiterate again, it's the lease. I won't put up the presentation again, but it's the lease purchase agreement with Skyline East. It's and yeah, we just need to go on and get the approval for that. So I can read the motion again if you'd like, or if you have any further questions on it.
Counselors, any questions? You could remind us of your recommended action. That would be helpful.
Sure. So the motion to enter into a lease purchase agreement for Skyline East Section 2 offsite sewer line between the City of Stillwater, and in this case it's going to be the City Council, and Eastside 3 LLC.
Between the City of Stillwater, it's the Utilities Authority and Eastside 3.
Yeah.
We're the City of Stillwater right now. We were the Utilities Authority before.
I get it all mixed up here. I'm sorry.
All right.
Backwards before. So,
Counselors,
I move to approve staff recommendation.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item's approved. Item 8C, consider approval of the Stillwater Public Library to make a sole source purchase downloadable material from Overdrive for the Oklahoma Virtual Library Platform. Stacy Delano.
Good evening, Stacy Delano with the Stillwater Public Library, and on August 15th, City Council approved a budget amendment for $150,000 and a grant from the Oklahoma Department of Libraries for the purchase of downloadable material for the purpose of the Oklahoma Virtual Library Consortium. So the Oklahoma Library Virtual Library Consortium is built on a company called a platform by the company Overdrive, and that consortium contains downloadable material purchased from Overdrive. Using this stable and reliable platform allows over 90 Oklahoma libraries to share content with each other, and it provides our customers a really seamless and reliable one-stop option for getting their reading material. So because of this, the library is requesting that Overdrive be approved as the sole source vendor for that $100,000 worth of downloadable materials for the Overdrive platform. So basically, but for Overdrive, we wouldn't even have a consortium. So if the library does not purchase downloadable material from Overdrive for the platform upon which Oklahoma Virtual Library consortium is based, then the library wouldn't receive the Oklahoma Department of Library grants for downloadable material. And this would result in a range of $50,000 to $200,000 in content to the Stillwater community and to those 90 communities across Oklahoma. So we're requesting that you consider Overdrive to be the sole source vendor for this amount.
Thank you, Stacy. Counselors, any questions?
I just want to say it's a great resource. I have used it,
I'm so glad.
and it's wonderful to have all that material out there and available.
It's amazing. And Andrea Kane is the one who runs it all for Oklahoma. She's amazing.
It is great.
Yes.
It works really well.
Yes.
It's always easy to find stuff and read it on your device. It's great. All right. Do you have a formal recommendation for us?
Motion to approve Stillwater Public Library to make a sole source purchase of downloadable material from Overdrive for use on the Oklahoma Virtual Library platform.
Counselors,
Motion to approve staff recommendation.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, that item's approved.
Thank you.
Always nice to see you here, Stacy.
Yes.
Thanks for coming. Item 8D, consider award of the base bid for the community center ramp and canopy project to Lambert Construction in the amount of $363,071 and approve budget amendments appropriating additional needed funds from the contingency fund. Mr. McClenny.
Good evening, John McClenny, Procurement Manager. In January 11th of 2021, the council approved a proposal by the Community Center Foundation to install an accessible entrance on the south side of the community center. January 25th of 2021, the SUA approved a budget of $45,000 to relocate electric service to facilitate the installation of the ramp and canopy. That electric relocation has been completed. The ramp and canopy design was subsequently completed, and on March 16th of 2021, bids were opened, and all bids exceeded the budget, which at the time was $235,000. The foundation raised additional funds for the project, and it was redesigned. On August 31st of 2022, bids were opened for the ramp and canopy project again. One bid was received from Lambert Construction, and the base bid again exceeded the budget. It will note that the front of the building is wheelchair accessible, but the distance to that from the main parking area is roughly 200 yards. The ramp will decrease that to less than 30 yards. Additional redesign and rebidding of the project is unlikely to produce better results at this point. The agreement with the foundation states that any and all project costs exceeding $296,700 shall be the responsibility of the city. We would need an additional $66,371 to award the base bid, and the contingency account currently holds a balance of $263,741 that could be the funding source for that. And I have a recommendation. I can answer questions before I make that, and I have Jim Beckstrom here to back me up if I can't answer.
Thank you, John. Counselors, any questions?
So this is just basically the concrete work. It's the ramp, it's the steps, it's the curbing, it's whatever it's needed, including preparation for a potential canopy down the road, but it's not the canopy.
Right.
ADA access from the parking lot side of the community center.
Yes.
When I think of contingency funds, I think this is certainly something that I can be full behind to spend money out of that account. It lays the base, and maybe when people see it, then it will promote the opportunity to provide funding for the canopy. So I'm gonna keep hoping, Jim. We'll keep so.
So the remainder of this, so we're talking about the total cost of this concrete bid would be $363,000 and change.
Right,
correct?
to do the ramp itself.
And the cities, we would be taking $66,000 out of contingency funds. How much has been raised by the foundation that will go into the project?
I believe they've raised the $296,700.
That in and of itself is an amazing accomplishment and something that we should put in this report in big bold letters. Just, from the standpoint of our community, chipping in $300,000 to make what I would consider basic improvements to a city facility it's almost a little embarrassing that we have to do it that way, but that's how cities are funded in this state. Unfortunately, we don't have a ton of revenue sources, and sometimes the community has to step up. I appreciate the fact they've done it, and for us to take $66,000 out of contingency funds to get that done seems like a no-brainer to me. But that's just me.
I'm really grateful for the work that the Community Center Foundation has done to make. I've been just so proud the last few months. We've had so many people in our community coming to us with projects that make our community more inclusive and accessible to people. I'm just really proud of that. I think this is one of those projects that we certainly want to contribute to. I also think it is next to another large project and investment that others are making in our community and that we'll be making in our community at Block 34. And so it just makes sense. It's the right thing to do.
What's your recommendation for us, John?
We recommend a motion to award the base bid to Lambert Construction in the amount of $363,071 and approve a budget amendment appropriating the $66,371 in additional funds needed from the general fund contingency.
Councilors?
I move to approve staff recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to award the bid with the contingency funds. Please vote. That item's approved with a vote of 5-0. Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who's played a role, the Beckstrom family, and everyone else who's donated to that project. Looking forward to seeing it complete, or at least partially complete to this point. That takes us to item 9, resolutions. This would be resolution number CC-2022-26, a resolution authorizing the submission of a loan application to the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission at the state of Oklahoma to fund a hangar project at Stillwater Regional Airport, approving a budget amendment appropriating funds to the hangar project, and authorizing the mayor to sign the loan application. Mr. Briegel.
Good evening again. So as we are preparing for our new terminal, and we're completing our master plan, it has become obvious that we are needing to put our new terminal where Group Hangar 1 is. Group Hangar 1 is the big barrel-topped, there's 2 of them, but it's the one immediately north of the existing terminal. It's 80-ish years old, well past its life span, but it also provides vital housing for 2 services that we really don't want to live without at our airport, and that's a mechanic shop that keeps a lot of our aircraft going, and then also a small flight school that provides flight training to everybody that's not going to OSU Flight Center. So with all that, we've determined that we really need to replace Hangar 1. If we're going to take it down, there are two people that have livelihood there, 2 entities have livelihood, and great services to our airport. So we started exploring how to do this, and first we have identified the old OSU Flight Center, which is 1800 North Wright Drive, as a good location for a new hangar. There's a grass field north of their parking apron that is prime for development. It fits within our layout plan as development. It also provides some tie-in back into parking and some other areas that are already there. The actual flight center itself is going to have to be destroyed, and fortunately it's well past its lifespan as well. And so we've been looking at what our space needs are, not only currently but into the future. So we've determined we're at least going to need about 100 by 100 foot hangar for aircraft storage, and then some additional adjoining office space. The mechanic shop, the flight school all have current office space for their business side. And then we've also had some requests from OSU wanting some research space for some of their other non-pilot program stuff. So we're trying to design a space that will accommodate not only our current needs, but into the future, some future needs. And so we have begun talking with Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission, and they currently have a loan program that will loan us up to $600,000. It's 10 years, 1.8% interest, so it's very favorable. And it right now will it's 60% or 600,000, whatever's less. So 600,000. I'm sorry, whatever's more. Is that right? 600,000 is what we'd be eligible for. We think this hangar is going to be somewhere between $2 and $2.5 million to construct. And so for right now, we're kind of in between. Do we build like $1.1 million hangar just to fit our needs, or do we build a little bigger? And so we're looking at other funding. I've revisited with the director of the Aeronautics Commission, and they're actually in the process of trying to find additional funds for us. And then they're also going to engage the Economic Development Authority to see if we can have some additional funds through that as well. So this resolution tonight would authorize us to go through the application process for the current offer of loan, which is $600,000. It also allocates $500,000, and again, because of our COVID relief, we've had an available fund balance that we can apply to this project, and so that we'd essentially, the budget amendment portion would send that $500,000 into a project account. There'll be multiple council items ahead on this. This gets the ball rolling with OAC. And then once other funding opportunities become available, of course, they'll come back to council as well. It'll, of course, be a public bid process, so there'll be many decision points, but this just really gets the ball rolling to start that process.
Thank you, Paul. Councilors, any questions? Just to be clear, we have a resolution, and then there is a budget amendment in the packet. Is that budget amendment on the agenda? Is it
Yes,
part of the resolution?
It's part of the resolution
Okay,
to approve the budget amendment. The budget amendment just allocates city funds to a project account so that he can start doing design and some stuff he needs to do for the overall hangar project as he continues to identify additional funding sources to determine the final scope of the project.
Okay, but the budget amendment doesn't need to be a separate item on the agenda itself?
Nope, it's accounted for in Section 2 of the resolution that the city will approve the budget amendment, which is attached as Attachment 1, allocating $500,000 in city funds to the project.
Okie dokie, thank you. Councilors, any further questions? What's your recommendation? Oh, sorry.
Nope.
Go ahead.
No, I don't have a question. I'm going down history. Stillwater girl, 1986. My class had a sock hop in Hangar 1 as a fundraiser. So I have a little bit of, yes.
Well, we'll have a new
It was
hangar
called a
one.
MORP. It's prom
Warp.
spelled backwards. It was a fundraiser
okay.
for our prom.
A
So,
sock hop?
Hangar 1, a sock hop,
All right.
1986.
Okay,
Hangar 1.
I'll take your word for it. we don't
I
do
digress.
events in Hangar
Yes,
1
exactly.
anymore, do we?
Stillwater. No.
With the new one,
I'm
can
just
we
gonna
rent it
stand
out
here
to
and
the high
smile.
school for?
I'm just standing here and smiling at this point. 'Cause
Councilors, is there a motion on resolution?
Motion to adopt resolution number CC-2022-26.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Please vote. Resolution is adopted by a vote of 5-0. Thank you, Paul. Next on the agenda is item 10, ordinances. On first read, we have ordinance number 3496 corrected. This is a corrected ordinance closing an easement, a corrected ordinance closing an easement located in the northeast quarter of section 35, township 20 north, range 2 east of the Indian Meridian, city of Stillwater, Payne County, Oklahoma, on property located on North Rogers Drive, south of Richmond, adjacent to North Rogers Drive in Parkview Estates, Section 10, and repealing all ordinances to the contrary. Do we have a quick statement on why we're correcting this ordinance? There's a typo in there, right?
They identified an error in the legal description. Staff did, and Bethy and Childs prepared a corrected legal description in this corrected ordinance.
I think there's like one word east that was missing,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Okay. Is there a motion on the ordinance?
Motion to advance ordinance number 3496 to second read.
Second.
With a motion and a second to advance the ordinance, please vote. With a vote of 5 to 0, ordinance 3496 corrected is advanced to second reading. On second reading, we have ordinance 3501 corrected, an ordinance correcting an address listed in ordinance 3501 regarding the rezoning of tracts of land located at 6099, 6001, 5911, and 5823 North Perkins Road, general industrial to small lot single family RSS. Councilors.
Move to adopt ordinance 3501 corrected.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance. Please vote. With a vote of 5 to 0, 3501 corrected is adopted. Ordinance 3507, item B, an ordinance rezoning tract of land located at 1122 and a portion of 1222 Southwestern Road from Office O to Commercial Shopping CS.
I would just like to say before we actually take action on this that I've been contacted by a resident who objects to this a couple of times, and I've listened to her objections, and I actually contacted her. Concern is that this is somehow going to affect the housing on Western between 12th and 6th. And I actually reached out to somebody who lives in that area today, and the response I got from her was that as far as she's concerned and the conversations she's had with her neighbors is that anything 12th and south is fair game, and that's a direct quote. So I just want to say that for the person who will eventually watch this recording, I looked into it some more, and I move that we adopt ordinance 3507.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 3507. Please vote. That ordinance is adopted by a vote of 5 to 0. On second read, ordinance 3508, an ordinance authorizing the removal of a certain portion of city-owned property located at and adjoining 701 West Boomer Lake Station Road, 2115 North Boomer Road, and 2107 North Boomer Road, collectively the property, from the lease agreement and operation and maintenance contract dated April 1st, 1979, authorizing the sale of the property, providing for citizen-initiated referendum of said sale in accordance with Section 4-2 of the City Charter. Councilors.
Motion to adopt ordinance 3508.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Ordinance 3508 is adopted with a vote of 5 to 0. Reports from officers and boards. Ms. Carnley?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Mr. McNichol?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. We're hiring. We have positions open and available. They're posted on the online at stillwater.org/employment. If you look today and do not see something you're interested in applying for, please check back again tomorrow. We're continuously seeking service-minded team members to join us. All applicants must be submitted by 5 p.m. on the closing date listed. And you should also, if you're at all interested in city employment, take a look at the accompanying benefits. They're pretty good.
So, good to know.
Also, tomorrow is IT Appreciation Day. We'd like to thank Director Brad Stewart and his team for all that they do to help keep our systems operating safely and successfully.
And they do a great job of it here.
Absolutely.
They do.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, September is Fire Appreciation Month. We greatly appreciate our firefighters and staff.
Wait, I'm sorry. Fire Appreciation Month?
Firefighter.
Firefighter
Appreciation? It is fire prevention.
Fire Prevention Appreciation? Oh, okay. So this is just fire appreciation?
Will
okay.
you just let me read
I'm
my
sorry.
talking
I
points?
just Please, Vice Mayor.
September is Fire Appreciation Month. We greatly appreciate our firefighters and staff with the Stillwater Fire Department for their continued efforts to keep our community safe. The sacrifices they make, as well as their families, is from the commitment to serve. They are typically the first on scene with emergency calls, in addition to fire-related emergencies, and are always ready to assist other cities when possible. You can follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to receive updates and information, and visit their website at stillwater.org/fire. Thank you for everything they do.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry I interrupted such a serious announcement, although I do think we should call that Fire Department Appreciation Month or something along those lines. Councilor Hawkins.
I'm kind of scared to start reading.
No, I'm gonna stay out of it.
Good luck to our Stillwater Electric Rodeo team as they compete September 21st in the annual Line Work Rodeo hosted by the Municipal Electric Systems of Oklahoma. The event is for journeymen and apprentices, and the rodeos are intended to simulate real-world scenarios, and promote mutual aid relationships. This training includes hands-on and classwork. Again, best of luck to our teams and keep up the great work. We appreciate you all.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Councilor Jaloski.
If you plan to transport littles in your vehicle and would like assistance with installation or are in need of a car seat, please save the date, Monday, October 3rd, for car seat checkup event. Our fire department is joining other entities in the state for this event and hosting a local car seat checkup for our community. The event will be hosted at Fire Station Number 1, located at 1506 South Main Street, and is from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. So another example of our
Absolutely.
fire department serving our community. Such a great service. I know as a new mama, I always worried if I had all the things and where they needed to be. So it's great just to go in and have them show you exactly how it's supposed to be done. Then you don't have to worry about it.
That's right.
It's very helpful too, because those things, it
They're
takes a little while,
tricky.
especially for folks who haven't done it before. It does take some time. So, Councilor Clark.
As a reminder, if you've had difficulty making utility or rent payments as a result of COVID-19, the City of Stillwater and Our Daily Bread may be able to help. The funding assistance program will be available until all funds are dispersed. Please go to ourdailybreadstillwater.org to find more information or to apply.
Excellent. Good reminder. I've had a couple of folks ask if they're eligible for that, and my response has been, I don't know, but if you call Our Daily Bread and get in touch with them, they will absolutely walk you through it and figure out if there's anything we can do to help. So if you do have any of those questions, or if you're wondering if you might be eligible, please give them a call. On the theme of hiring, the police department is also hiring. If you're interested in joining the SPD as a detention officer, please go to stillwater.org/employment. This isn't on my sheet, and I could be wrong here, but I feel like Paul Priegel might have started in our police department as a detention officer.
He did.
Which I think is a great advertisement for why it would be a fantastic place to start your career if you're looking for a job. Closing date for this position is October 19th. There are other positions continuously posted for the SPD, and they'd love to discuss employment opportunities with you, including those interested in becoming an officer. You can follow Stillwater Police Department on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. They do monitor and respond to private messages as well. All right, that's everything I have on the agenda for tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. With a vote of 5-0, the Stillwater City Council is now adjourned, and that concludes our meetings for the evening.